Hello everyone, this is Leo. Today we'll be doing an updated Messiah list post set 6. This is a list that is very heavily influenced by some of the later lists that came out in Japan that have been topping. I tweaked it a little bit, but it's very much what you'll see probably Messiah lists look like as we go down in the format. But you know, your ride line's not going to change because it can't, because those are the rules. So just your standard ride line here. For your G zone, I am missing a copy of Trans Else, so I'm currently playing the 4 Amnesty, 1 Excel 6, and then 3 Trans Else. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get it in time, but even like this, I still played the deck and I still did very well with it. So even though you will never be going into Excel 6, because as you'll see soon, my list doesn't play any copies of the original or the Messiah in the main deck. It's just flip fodder. Once I can get my hands on the 4th copy, I will be playing 4 copies of Trans Else and then the 4 copies of Excel 6. I didn't have the extra 4 copies of extra 4 sleeves of the Ibuki. So I just did the 8 that I already had from the last time I had played Messiah. Then moving on to the main deck, starting with the grade 3s. Not a lot, but a decent amount. We're obviously playing 4 copies of Marstash. He just makes Soul. He's your stride fodder most of the time. Hopefully you can discard him on grade 3 as well. That'll be really good. As well as just being a nice 23k attacker. Once you flip over one thing, he's a 28k attacker. Don't really want to have to attack with him, but he is just good pitch fodder. And if you want to get Soul, he is another way to do it. Then I'm also playing 2 copies of Prelude to Genesis. This might be a bit different from what you might see in some JP lists. All of them have been playing things like the Dark World or Abyssal Dark World grade 3 that lets you Soul Blast 1 to retire something. But I really like the ability to start locking my opponent's things early. Sometimes people will try to grade 2 game you and not let you stride, even if you get to go second. And this is just a nice way to still take some of their cards, still lock some of their rear guards. Sure, you don't get to draw cards, but it is good to just be able to maybe commit some cards earlier on to push, like your grade 2 Messiah stuff, and then just bring it back and lock one of their units, and then just get it off the board permanently. A lot of players don't think that you'll play this before then, so they're a lot more likely to commit stuff if they know that they still have a whole other turn of using it. But with the order, you just get to essentially spit in their face and then lock their unit and then find it. And then for the last grade 3, I am playing 1 Fire Regalis. It is a grade 3 that you can just pitch for riding up, for striding, and it can just be played from drop, so it's perfect. A lot of things you can call off the deck that are pretty good in here, and if you don't want to call, you can always still just draw a card. So it's just a good card. Then for the grade 2s, there are a decent amount of grade 2s. Let me get all of them. So starting off, we have 4 energy cyclers. Deck doesn't really use energy for much else, so there has to be some way of burning it, and this is here for, just to get yourself some extra card draws, kind of stabilize your way up to grade 3, as well as just using it to guard and being able to keep most of your hand. You're trying to grind the game out long, so being able to essentially turn your card into another card is pretty good. And then for your main attackers, we're playing 4 Black Dwarf and 3 Arrestor, especially because I'm playing the grade 3 order. You can cut down on Arrestor just a bit because you can always bring it back with a grade 3 order, but these both essentially do the same thing. After they battle, they get to lock themselves. Black Dwarf will give another unit 5k, and then Arrestor will gain 5k. And then Black Dwarf, you can CB1 once you're at GB3 when your G unit is stride to call it back from drop. So a nice recur unit. You probably won't be using that. You already have 7 copies of this. That should be more than enough. Then moving on from the units, that's only the grade 2 units. We are playing 4 copies of Pelika Express. This is just a 20k shield that requires you put a set order on the bottom of the deck, and you might be asking, what set order are we playing? That is 4 copies of Deadly Ice Fishing, another way to use energy in this deck. You E-Blast 2, rest it, then you can look at top 3, choose a card with grade less than a grade of Vanguard, call it to rear if it's a unit card, or put it into hand if it's an order card, and if you put a card, you put this in a soul. So this can get you another copy of Deadly Ice Fishing, it can get you a Pelika Express, it can get you the Prelude of Genesis or the Fire Regalis if you really need it. It gets you any of your units that you might need to use, so a very good card. You're trying to see at least one in your opening hand so that you can use it as soon as you're on grade 2. Just an incredibly good advantage piece that you can just keep reusing because you'll just keep bot decking it with Pelika. It also makes it so that you're a little less susceptible to being milled out. In one of the games I played this weekend, I actually was able to use a Pelika Express to bot deck a Deadly Ice Fishing, which put me at 5 cards in main deck as I was going into my turn, which then let me draw a card, stride, and still have 3 cards to drive check with my G unit, which meant that I wasn't going to get deck out, and I didn't have to just sit on Messiah, which changed the game almost entirely. It allowed me to put enough pressure to win that game before I just stacked out. That's all for grade 2s. Moving on to grade 1s, not as many here. You're playing 4 sacrifice. 4 sacrifice makes sense here because you just want to be able to counter charge if you really need to. The extra 5k to Van is pretty good. Your Vanguard's already going to be pretty big. If you use Messiah's own effect, that's an extra 5k, and then if you use one of these, it's another 5k. Bring it up to 38. And then if you're on Amnesty, it's another 5k to the front row. So what is it? 28, 38, 43. That's a very good number to hit. So you only really need one of these. Using more is unnecessary, but the countercharging is what we like from it, as well as the ability to lock itself after it's attacked. So that's why we're playing the 4 of it. Then we are playing 4 of just the Cosmo Wraith. We don't play Sanctitude, even though we could, because we are playing 4 copies of Pelika Express, and we don't want those 2 cards to clash. So just combo Cosmo Wraith in here against things like, guard restrictions. Pelika Express is good enough. It's a 20k shield. That is an insanely large number of shield, and then you can just throw a bit more. So if you face against something again like Drag Strider and Luard, sure, you might not have the Sanctitude, but Pelika Express is a good backup for that, as well as just you being able to throw a little bit more on there should keep you pretty safe. Then onto triggers. Your Brankgate OT, kind of hard to argue with it in this deck, especially because you will have front row standing pretty much after your Vanguard swings always, so kind of hard to argue against it. Then probably one of the greatest additions to this deck coming out of set 6 is Matena, the Soul Front, as we're calling them. Essentially, after you use them to guard, they just go into Soul, and that is an incredibly good effect in Messiah, where we use every Soul to draw a single card, and this is just, we just turn Matena into an extra Soul every turn. Incredibly good. But besides that, we are also playing 2 extra of the 20k fronts, because we always have front rows to give power to, so fronts are pretty good to hit, making our already incredibly large columns even bigger. So since you probably guessed it, since there's 6 fronts, we're playing 1 vanilla crit and 4 copies of the effect crits. These are kind of good because you can then put them in a soul, get yourself an extra draw, so it's not as bad to hit these or have to call these as it would be in some other decks. Getting a crit is good, but you're mostly using the pressure of multi-attacking for winning the game more than you are just relying on criticals. And then obviously 4 heals, you need them. You play them in every deck pretty much, so nothing too crazy here. Not playing any tech heals because currently I think just having the 15k is better than having the 25k very rarely, or having a 10k most of the time, which is what those heals are, unfortunately. But yes, that is my Messiah list that actually did perform very decently this past weekend. I was able to get second with it, losing only to Prison because I was unable to lock anything with my alter ego, and then I ended up leaving too many cards on board and too many cards in Prison, and it was more of me not having played the Prison matchup in quite a decent while, and it's almost entirely on my part that I messed it up. But I still ended up coming in second. Besides that one game against Prison, in which it was mostly player error more than it was the deck itself. I then played against a Dayusha player who almost got me, but I was able to pivot the game enough so that I control the board state just enough to keep myself in the game, and then just started getting rid of his board little by little. As they don't play as many copies of their supporting D-Robos, I was able to pick those off, get rid of them off the board entirely. So after he had his one turn of like guard restriction and critical and all that, I was able to take away all those pieces for pretty much the rest of the game and was able to sweep after that. Then my last game was against Luard, actually, and that was the game in which I almost stacked out. The game went on pretty much until the end of it. We were both almost nearly out of strides. Obviously, if I had played the extra 4 strides, I would have been fine. But I would have only had 1 card left. We were just both passing back and forth on incredibly large amounts of cards in hand and never really going too far until. But the plus side of Messiah is that I was able to take away his grade 1s, which made his ritual harder and harder and harder to keep up because he had to put into deck the grade 1s that he would like to have in drop. He also made the mistake of going into Strider at one point and not being able to meet any of the requirements. So I got essentially a free grade 3 or a free stride turn where he didn't really do anything and he didn't flip anything because he went into Strider or Driver. I'm confusing I believe I'm confusing the two, but the GB2 Stride is the one that they accidentally went into. And I just kept going into Trans Else and locking their board and making sure that all of that stuff went away and they just didn't have access to it just constantly. Trans Else is an incredibly strong card. It won me a lot of games just off of its own ability to lock more of your opponent's board and get rid of it. But the deck's incredibly fun. You'll have a lot of cards in your hand. Right now the deck should be pretty budget besides the Messiah order, and I believe the Energy Cycler is also decently expensive, but most of the deck got reprinted in set 6. So the most expensive cards, I think right now, would probably be things like the Pansmeria, the Prelude of Genesis, Marstog did get reprinted, so he shouldn't be as expensive as he was prior. The Fire Regalis is also probably another decent penny, but as long as you have a grade 3 Regalis, the only one you can't really use is like Cup, but you can figure something out, right? But with that, I will leave you. I hope you like the deck profile. This deck's actually really fun. I used to play this a lot back in V and in G, so I do enjoy it coming back. Maybe a different little flavor than it used to have, but that's fun. That's what the whole point of Standard is that we get to maybe try to use some of the old cards in a different way and have a bit more fun with them. But again, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.